What is going on, everybody? Off the Mic Sports Network. Obviously, the big story, sports and college football specifically, is Brian Kelly has been fired by LSU. Really, if you followed LSU, this isn't that surprising for this to happen before the Alabama game in late October before Halloween. That's, I think, the big surprising point for me, at least. But given the way that this job market and the way this coaching carousel has gone in the 2025 season, if it wasn't going to work, like LSU was just going to move off of it, especially bye week. Now they go into facing Alabama coming out of the bye to start the month of November. The question now becomes, what does LSU do here with this job? Because to me, this is one or two, or 1A, 1B in the job market. Like, this is as good of a job as you're going to find in college football. The last three coaches prior to Brian Kelly won national championships. And Les Miles is an all right head coach. Ed Orgeron, all right head coach. And then, of course, Nick Saban. Nick Saban is Nick Saban, for God's sake. But that leads me to my point here. Obviously, Lane Kiffin's name is going to come up here. He's the head coach at Ole Miss. He literally told people in Norman as he was leaving the field to basically say, I'm not fucking leaving. He's going to have a choice of two really good jobs, potentially, in LSU and Florida, potentially opening up. So Lane Kiffin could be the prime candidate. But my first call, if I am LSU and if Scott Woodward, the athletic director who's given out over $100 million in buyouts to two high-profile coaches, including, Jimbo Fisher and now Brian Kelly, the first call that I am making is to Nick Saban. The first call that I am making, if I am the LSU athletic department, if I'm Scott Woodward, if he's still making this decision, the first person that I am checking in on is Nick Saban. And I'm begging him to come back. Because to me, if you're not getting Lane Kiffin, Nick Saban, I think, and listen, there's a strong possibility that Nick Saban does not come back. He said it very emphatically on Pat McAfee's show on Friday that his wife and him, they're fine. Like he's not really interested. He's enjoying life after college football, and he's done a really good job at College Game Day on ESPN. But I do think that Nick Saban would absolutely listen to Louisiana State University if they wanted to bring him back, even in his 70s. And I think Nick Saban could go there and do a really good job. Because Nick Saban, go to coaching, even if, he was kind of tired of the way this thing was going. As I've said, a lot of people are capable of winning at Louisiana State University. And I think, who's to say that Nick Saban wouldn't say no? Like, there's a possibility, and I think of all the jobs out there, because we've sheepishly thrown Nick Saban's name out there at a bunch of possibilities. I remember the whole Texas thing years ago, and who knows what's going on with Steve Sarkisian. Like, he got really emphatic about, his name being brought up for NFL jobs. Obviously, Arkansas wasn't going to be serious, but Florida, Penn State came open. Like, Nick Saban's name has come up at seemingly every big name job, because he's Nick fucking Saban. And as long as that guy is alive, that is the GOAT of fucking coaching in football. College or maybe even pro. Nick Saban, yeah, I understand the Dolphins thing did not work out. But when you talk about at least college coaching, this guy has done it at a high level for as long as anybody in this sport. So if you're LSU, to me, the two options for you that you need to go at least try to go get are Lane Kiffin, and I think Nick Saban needs to be your first call. And then if Nick Saban inevitably says no, you go try to get Lane Kiffin. And if Lane Kiffin doesn't say yes, then God help you, because I don't know what that coaching search is going to look like if you're not going to be able to bring in one of those two. I know Marcus Freeman's name may be brought up. Considering his past track record, being around, obviously being around Brian Kelly, and I think he might have been at LSU. Don't quote me on that, but I don't know if or if Marcus Freeman's going to want to leave Notre Dame, especially if this Notre Dame team gets to the playoff. That's the other complicated part of this whole thing is if you're a team looking for a head coach in this market and one of those coaches is going to be coaching in the playoff, it's going to be really hard to get them away because of, the transfer portal, getting your roster set up and, recruiting cycles. Like, it is different at this level in college football than it ever was before. That's why this is going to be so fucking chaotic. And I have no earthly idea how this is going to go. But if you are an LSU fan, the guy that you need to go try and get and you need to call first is Nick Saban. And people will push that away because, hey, Nick Saban's in his 70s. He's been retired for a couple of years. He's basically said no. I seriously believe that if LSU put their pitch together and, pretty much gave Nick Saban whatever he wanted, I seriously think he would listen. More so there than any of these other jobs that come available. This is the most realistic possibility. I'll say this. If Nick Saban doesn't go to LSU, he's not coming back. And it's very possible that he won't, because he has made it very, very clear, at least through what he has been saying through the last year or so, and specifically in the last couple of weeks with all of these major jobs coming available, that he's not interested in coaching anymore. But he did as good a job as anybody at any of these places. He went to LSU. He left LSU and went to the Miami Dolphins and then came back and went to Alabama, restored that program to where it's supposed to be. Like I said, the three coaches prior to Brian Kelly won at a very high level at LSU. Just the way it goes, man. And Nick Saban, is the standard really of that university. And really, I think that it's a no fucking brainer that they absolutely have to call him up. I would say because of who he is and because he has won as a head coach and he's won there, Nick Saban's got to be your first guy. And then it's Lane Kiffin. Beyond that, I have no earthly idea what LSU is going to do, but this is the best job available. Depending on who you talk to, it's 1A, 1B. LSU, maybe the logic of them getting out in front of this now was to, just get into the cycle as quickly as they could because they already had seen the last 2 weeks, two really major jobs come available. The rival Florida, who ironically they beat, and then, Penn State the week before that. So it's a crazy cycle, man. I don't know where this whole thing's going to stack up. There's probably going to be a lot of, people. There's going to be some jobs that may just not come available because there's just not enough qualified candidates out there. This is going to be a wacky cycle. And we've already seen it go the way we did. But to me, if you're LSU, you got to call Nick Saban. And you got to make him say no. You got to make him say no. Do everything you can to get Nick Saban. And then from then, just let the rest of the coaching search go. But to me, that's the best job available. And the only job that I think Nick Saban would come out of retirement for. Anyway, thanks so much, everybody, for watching. I'll see you guys soon. Bye-bye.